If you feel like you're constantly frustrated with your child, this one mindset shift will change everything and help you parent on easy mode more often. Parenting is hard, and as parents, we often feel like we need to try harder, we need to be more patient, or in some cases, we need to somehow fix ourselves. And what I've learned in over 7 years of being a parent is that those frustrations, more often than not, stem from what we expect our child is actually capable of and what their brain is allowing them to actually do. And as parents, when we get caught up in these frustrating moments, when we're low on patience, when we're tired, we don't see or acknowledge this gap at all. And what that then means is that frustration grows and situations more often than not can escalate out of control. So in this video, I'm going to dive into 5 ways that we can remove this expectation gap between us and our children and help you to parent on easy mode more often. So let's start with the research. How common is it for parents to actually have that gap in expectation between what they believe their child is capable of and what their child is actually capable of? So I want to roll back to 2016 when a fantastic website called 0 to 3 launched a parenting study alongside the Bezos Foundation, and they surveyed thousands of parents to discover and explore the gap in expectation between what parents believe their children are capable of and what they're actually capable of. And the study found that the majority of parents overestimate age at which children master some important developmental skills. So if we dive into some of the specifics, 56% of parents believed children have the impulse control to resist the desire to do something forbidden before the age of 3. And 36% believe that children under the age of 2 have this kind of self-control. However, brain research shows that these skills start developing between 3.5 to 4 years of age, and many more years to be used consistently, as parents with older children know all too well. 43% of parents believed that children could share and take turns with other children before the age of 2. However, this skill develops between the ages of 3 to 4. And 24% of all parents believe that children are able to control their emotions, such as not having tantrums when frustrated, at 1 or younger, while 42% believe children have the ability by 2. And of course, research shows that this type of self-control is also just starting to develop between 3.5 to 4 years of age. And certainly when it comes to controlling and managing our emotions, I'm sure many of you can relate that this is something we're still working on well into adulthood. And 0 to 3 shared that when parents are able to set those realistic expectations, then they're in a far better position to guide their children and teach their children sensitively during the early years, rather than using control and punishment to try and guide their behaviour. And a really important issue raised in their research that parents continually flagged that they're still working on their own emotions, they're still working on self-control, so they're in a great place to model how to do this with their child. In fact, 60% of parents told 0 to 3 that having enough patience is among the top 3 improvements they would like to make as parents. And nearly half, so 47% of parents, said they want to better control their emotions and reactions. And 42% said that they don't want to yell or raise their voice as quickly as they do. And finally, 33% of parents said they don't want to lose their temper so fast with their children, and it's something that they really want to work on. And if this is an area you really want to focus on as a parent, I've got 3 valuable toolkits for you over on the Dad Vibes, thedadvibes.com/toolkits, where you can get the Discipline Without Damage toolkit, the Parenting Without Punishment toolkit, and the Stop Yelling toolkit, which are all full of resources that have helped over 60,000 parents all over the world to be calmer and more responsive during those challenging moments with their kids. So why does this even matter? How does this gap in expectation hurt parents and kids? When our expectations of our child are out of sync from what we believe they're capable of to what they're biologically able to do, a few things happen. Number 1, we take their behaviour personally. Instead of seeing behaviour as communication, we see it as an attack or a power move. And when we've got this perception of our kids' behaviour, then we're less likely to respond positively and guide them and teach them during them challenging moments. And we're more often than not going to respond quickly, negatively, harshly, and that's when the yelling, the frustration, the shouting, and even punishment comes into play to try and get control of that behaviour we're not happy with. Number 2, we escalate instead of co-regulating, and we think they should know better. And when we think along these lines, we're more susceptible to use things like harsher punishments, harsh discipline, yell, shout, and respond negatively to our child to get the behaviour that we believe they should be showing. But the difficult thing is, with everything in our child's life, it takes time for them to learn to get where we want them to be. And if we're immediately expecting them to do something like share or regulate their emotions, and in our head they need to be there and they're not, then obviously we're going to respond harshly to try and force them to where we want them to be. But obviously when we've got the correct perception, then we can work to teach and guide them and give them the time they need to learn the skills that we want to see. Number 3, we feel like constant failures. We feel guilt, we feel shame. We're on Google endlessly, Googling, why isn't my child able to do this, that, or the other? If we constantly feel our child should be doing something they're not, then obviously we're going to internalize that, and it's going to be a reflection of ourselves and the way we're raising our kid. Number 4, and in time, our child will get the message that I'm just too much. Every time we punish or shame our child for something that's behaviorally normal, then they're going to begin to internalize that and feel like they're not enough. They're going to start thinking, am I naughty? Am I bad at listening? Are my feelings too much? However, when we take a step back and we get the frame of reference right in our minds, then we're more often than not going to be better placed to respond to our child, to guide them through those challenging moments and teach them those all-important life skills. If you're finding value in this video so far, please be sure to hit like so that YouTube will serve you with more of my videos in the future and serve it to parents that need it too. Okay, so here are 5 things that parents can do to close that expectation gap and parent on easy mode more often. Number 1, learn what's developmentally normal. So obviously you don't need a PhD, but taking some time to having a basic sense of what's realistic for a 1 to 3-year-old, for example, is so powerful. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's take 1 to 3-year-old toddlers. It's perfectly normal for them to hit, bite, or push when overwhelmed because language and impulse control lag behind emotions. Obviously, children get caught in that position where they really know what they want to communicate, but they don't have the language to communicate how they're feeling. So what happens is things bubble up and they communicate in the only way they know how. Lashing out, hitting, biting, scratching. Obviously, I'm not saying all of this is acceptable. And of course, you need to set boundaries, healthy boundaries, and talk about what appropriate behavior looks like. But in terms of when it comes to you as a parent responding from a place of positivity and respect and guiding your child and thriving more often as a parent, not caught in this constant cycle of yelling and shame and guilt, then you're going to be much better placed to respond from a place of positivity. Children this age say no a lot because they're discovering their own autonomy. They also struggle with sharing because you've got to remember they're still wired of seeing the world through their own eyes without considering other people's emotions or other people's reactions to when they do things. And of course, one we're all well aware of is that at this age, they do have multiple meltdowns and tantrums a day because their window of tolerance is tiny. So being accepting of this, not taking it personally, is so important for us to respond positively, because when you've got a calm response to a toddler tantrum or a meltdown, then that calm response helps them to co-regulate and helps reduce their stress response and ultimately bring them back to a level of calm. So of course, when you expect these behaviours as part of the parenting package, you're less likely to be blindsided by your little one. You might still be tired and exhausted, but you're far less likely to jump straight to what's wrong with them or what's wrong with me by having this new frame of reference in your mind. A really good practical step, regardless of what age you're in, whether you've got a baby, a toddler, a teenager is to start to begin to build that mental manual of what your child at that age is developmentally capable of. So pick a topic each week, whether it's sleep, emotional regulation, sharing, and take 5 to 10 minutes of an evening and just do a little bit of research of what you can expect from your child at that age. And over time, you'll start to build that mental manual in your mind. Number 2, and this is so powerful, and it's shift the question from how do I stop this to what is this behavior telling me? If there's one thing that the Dad Vibes has taught me in engaging with thousands of parents all over the world, is that many parents were raised and taught that unwanted behavior needs to be stopped quickly. But if we take toddlers, for example, the more helpful question is, what is this behavior trying to say? So if we take tantrums, we need to frame that as, I'm overwhelmed and don't have the skills to cope yet. If we look at hitting or lashing out, we need to frame it as, I'm frustrated and don't have the words or impulse control yet. If a child says no to absolutely everything, we can frame that as, I'm learning that I'm a separate person with my own will. And when you treat behavior as information, you stop fighting the child and start supporting that need underneath. Now, a really good practical step is the next time your child is exerting an unwanted behavior, pause, take a step back and ask yourself, if this behavior could talk, what would it be telling me? And do your best mentally to respond to that specific question rather than trying to respond to the noise and the frustration that's building up within that situation. Number 3, lower the bar specifically in the hardest parts of the day. So there are going to be parts of the day where the expectation gap for you specifically widens. It could be mornings, it could be the nursery run, it could be pre-bedtime, busy weekends, transitions from one activity to the other. In those windows, you'll always hit the limit of your toddler capacity sooner. And obviously, because it's something that you personally struggle with as well, you'll also hit the limit too. And those two things coupled together will just escalate situations out of control. And once you acknowledge when specifically your expectation gap widens as a parent during those specific challenging moments or routines for you and your child, then just acknowledge that in those moments, there'll be less patience, there'll be less flexibility. For your child, there might be less impulse control. There might be more need for closeness and comfort, for example, on the nursery drop-off. And the idea is if we lower expectations at the peak stress times, then things will go much smoother because you're going to be less reactive to your child's behavior. Number 4, and that's use boundaries consistently without expecting emotional neutrality. So what I mean with that is you can absolutely set and hold a boundary as a parent, but they certainly don't need to be happy with the boundary you're setting. But as the parent, as the sturdy parent that wants to guide and teach your child, is absolutely your job to set those healthy boundaries. And it's a difficult one because in that moment, you could feel like the worst parent ever because your child has escalated, you've set the boundary, they've escalated even further, and it could be so tempting to just take a step back, not even set the boundary at all. But you need to remember that children feel safe and secure when they know where the goalposts are. But as a parent, your number one job is to hold the boundary, but of course make room for the feelings about that boundary. It's okay to have both. And in time, when you set them clearly and consistently, your child is going to be more understanding and receptive of them. But of course, you must set them consistently because they need to learn and understand where those goalposts are. But in the moment, in that specific moment when you set them, if you're expecting emotional neutrality, then that is going to lead to the frustration bubble up for yourself. Number 5, and this is an expectation for you, and it's adjust the expectations you set for yourself. This is so, so important, and the one tip that parents just forget completely, because the expectation gap isn't just about children. It's also about what we expect of ourselves as parents. We imagine we should stay calm all the time, never raise our voice, always know what to do, love every single minute of being a parent. But you need to remember that you're only human. You've got a nervous system too. You've got your own triggers. You've got your own stress levels. You were raised a certain way and you've got zero training on the job of being a parent. So we absolutely need to adjust the expectations we set for ourselves. And if you do find yourself stressed, overwhelmed, yelling at your child often, as I've said, head over to thedadvibes.com/toolkits where there's plenty of resources to help you out, or I'll put a link to this video up here which teaches you all about how to apologize and model repair with your child. So when we start setting that realistic expectation gap between our perception of our child's behavior and abilities and what they're actually capable of, a few powerful things happen. You shout less, not because you've become magically patient, but because things feel less personal. Your toddler feels safer to be themselves, even with big feelings. You spend less time stuck in guilt and more time actually enjoying your child. And daily life, of course, will still have chaos, but it has far more compassion too. And it's so important for parents to be enjoying their parenting life. And one of my passions as a parenting content creator is to help parents thrive through their parenting journey. We're not going to enjoy every moment, but I really want parents to be enjoying as many moments as they can as parents. And I really hope that this video can help shift that mindset and get you parenting on easy mode more often. Thank you for watching this video. If you're new here, don't go anywhere. I've got plenty of parenting videos for you to watch. I've just linked one up there for you to click and take a look. I'll be back every week with a brand new parenting video to help you feel more confident as a parent and more connected to your little one. Thanks for watching.